I talked about earlier the mayor, coffee with the mayor. Look at Mushmouth this morning. Coffee with the mayor, and ahead of the city council meeting, and I've got none other than the budget hawk on the phone, Michael Ward. Michael, how are you this morning?
Well, I'm doing good. I told Jody I wasn't sure what you wanted to talk about. I'm wearing several different hats these days. Of course, the pro-life thing is going on intensely, and I'm still organizing the whole county, but I had to stop and work on the city tax rate and budget and trying to give the council a little bit of a lesson in how the free market, free enterprise system works. Because they were trying to find about $1 million, maybe delaying the outdoor warning system and a few other things the other day. By the way, the meeting on the last reading and the adoption of the budget and tax rate is this afternoon at 5 o'clock. I think, depending on the weather, the pro-life people may be there too. But anyway, basically, it's so easy for them to take $1 million out of the basically the market Lubbock money, which for people that know me, I've been talking about this now for 28 years because it's totally unauthorized money. And I told the city manager and some of the council members last week after the hearing that they could make up that $1 million very easy to go back to the effective tax rate, or what they're calling now the no new revenue.
How would they do that, Michael?
Well, very much. But that money that is in Market Lubbock is about 2.25 cents property tax, and we voted it out by 84%. But they use it primarily to hand out to selective businesses and even do projects like the soccer fields for $6.5 million. And it avoids them having to come to the public for permission on a lot of things. But this will be a really easy thing to do because all of that money is completely fungible with the general fund and should never have been set aside to start with since 1992.
Was that money? Remind me, because it's been a week, I think, since we talked about this. Is that the account that the city council and the mayor voted on, and later we discovered that the money grant had been given to a restaurant that the mayor's wife had invested in? Is that
that is part of that Market Lubbock fund. See, it's pretty much able to be used for anything they want to. The LEDA money, the 1/8 cent sales tax, I don't want to get people's eyes glazed over this time of day, but that LEDA money is authorized because we traded 3/4 or 3/8 of a cent of the half cent that was available for economic development through 2 different elections, and 1/8 cent that LEDA gets is generating $7 million.
Holy cow!
And they don't really need this other. I hate to call it a slush fund, but it can pretty much be.
Yeah, it looks like one. It looks like one. Hey, Michael, backing up a quick second, you mentioned a Right to Life rally today. Is that at Citizens Tower?
They are going to meet there and do just a very peaceful Jericho march around the building, if weather permits, I suppose. But there's a lot of different things happening all at the same time that I care a lot about. But because I've worked on this tax and spend stuff for so many years, I just thought this was very important to
it's very.
Take one more pitch. I sent you my letter, the fairly long letter that I sent to the council, explaining that no society has ever taxed itself into prosperity, and taking money out of that and leaving it in people's hands to invest in their businesses and trade with each other and all of this, they will generate more than that $1 million back. I guarantee it's how the world works if you get out of the way and get government out of people's hair and bleeding them dry too. So
all right.
Anyway, a lot of different things happening, but we're trying to. I think you have talked about it probably already.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling in, Michael. So, Michael, the two issues there that she was discussing, the tax increase that you need to make your thoughts clear about to your city council member. If you don't know who your city council member is, find out. You can go online and figure that out. cityoflubbock.com, or mylubbock.com, something like that. Anyway, you can call City Hall and tell them where you live, and they'll tell you who your city councilman is. Also, Michael touched on the Right to Life rally today at Citizens Tower, and if someone knows what time that is and where everybody is meeting, let's promote that instead of focusing on people smashing plate glass windows and lighting police cars and police stations on fire. Something positive. Not that that's happening here in town, but across the country. Let's do something positive and show people what Lubbock is all about, and that's the sanctity of life. Talking about the economy, and I know Matt Martin and Dave King talked to Eddie McBride earlier this morning, front page story in the AJ. Jamie Lozano talks about John Osborne at the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance and Eddie McBride at the Chamber, talking about the hit that Lubbock is likely to take. We all have talked about this before, and we're all aware of it, from the lack of the football games and the influx of cash and so forth, visitors into town for the games. We do have 2 games scheduled thus far, so as Eddie and John said this morning, or Eddie said this morning, it's better than nothing. So we'll get some money from the games, but not, of course, not as much as we've come to expect, which is unfortunate. But I thought that article gave a fairly unvarnished look at what the unemployment rate is, what it was, how much we're losing, how much we stand to make. It's going to be a struggle, to put it mildly, and I think a tax increase right now is just unbelievably ridiculous. Back on the Chad Hasty Show, let's go right to the phones. Jim, you're on. Hit it.
Hey, Matt, it's Jim.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I want to tee this up just a little bit. Now, as you may recall from last week, State Senator Charles Perry, Representative John Frullo, and Dustin Burrows sent a letter to Mayor Pope and members of the City Council asking them to help enact an ordinance or two to keep Planned Parenthood from coming back to Lubbock. As all of you remember, we ran Planned Parenthood out of here several years ago, and now they're trying to get a toehold back in town. So today we're going to have a little rally. Jim, tell us what time it starts and what the goal is of the rally.
Yes, sir. So we're going to meet at Citizens Tower, which is at 14th and Avenue K downtown. That's the new City Hall building, at 4 p.m. And it'll be rain or shine. There's a chance of rain, but I think we're going to be in the clear for the rally. We'll go from 4 to 5, and the City Council meeting starts at 5 o'clock. So our goal is to send a message to the City Council members that the people of Lubbock demand that they outlaw abortion in the city of Lubbock by passing the ordinance that has been presented to them to keep Planned Parenthood out and keep babies from dying in our city.
I met the mayor of Big Spring last week, and he told us about his victory in Big Spring. Are you aware of what he did down there?
Yes, sir. I actually drove down to Big Spring to help them out for that, and Mr. Thomason, the mayor of Big Spring, really led the charge, and they completely outlawed all abortion in the city limits of Big Spring, and that'll keep Planned Parenthood from attempting to move into town there. And we're trying to pass a very similar ordinance here in Lubbock to what they passed in Big Spring.
Where can people see those ordinances and the letter?
Yeah, so you can see the ordinance. If you go to the Facebook page, West Texas for Life, we have links to the letter that Senator Perry and Representative Frullo and Representative Burrows co-signed to the City Council. We also have a link to thetexan.news, where they put an article up, statewide press, about the need in Lubbock to stop abortion here.
This is a little off subject, but do you find it interesting that there's been very little media about that letter?
Yes, I do. I'm very concerned about the lack of the local media picking up on that. I mean, this is an important topic that the average citizen cares drastically about, and they haven't said hardly a word.
What do you ascribe that to? I mean, I just take a wild guess. Why don't you think they're picking up on it?
Well, I think it could be a couple of things. One, it could be a liberal bias, and
no, come on now, Jim. No, that's not fair.
Well, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So that's you're stating the obvious, unfortunately. But I haven't seen a word about it in the newspaper and very little on the broadcast stuff, aside from KFYO. Of course, the paper is also silent on the deal with the mayor and his wife. So, I mean, I don't know what to expect, and maybe they've got something planned for later in the week. So, okay, so the rally's at 4:00.
Yes, sir.
Is anybody going to speak? I mean, what's the program?
We're just going to have a kind of a low-key rally. We're going to wave signs that say such things as abortion kills children and abolish abortion and Jesus forgives and heals.
You're not going to break plate glass windows and set police cars on fire.
No, that's not the plan. We're a little bit different on the right here than the left has been on their rallies. We're going to spread out along the sidewalk so the city council can see how many of us there are that are standing up for life. And
I'm going to ask you a difficult question. You've been at this a long time. I mean, you have a day job, but you've been an activist for Right to Life for a long time, and in your heart of hearts, what do you think the mayor and the city council are going to do with this?
Well, my suspicion is they want it to just go away. They don't want this to be raised to the forefront. They don't want to have to take a stand. And so we, the citizens, have a responsibility then to make them take a stand. And that means we call their offices, we email their offices, we show up at the city council meetings, we try to talk to them, and we stand outside of this rally and peacefully hold signs and say, we expect this to be done.
Like, as I said earlier, we ran Right to Life out of here years ago. What do you think? Why do you think they're coming back to town they had run out of? I mean, do they think something has changed here? I mean, the mindset, the ethos of the people. I mean, can you kind of give me your crystal ball look into their mind thinking?
The big issue with Planned Parenthood is money. They care way less about the issues than they do about money. And they have a $9 million donation by an anonymous donor to come back into Lubbock and to kill babies here in Lubbock. And that's what's brought them back, is they can take that $9 million and divvy it up among themselves and run a clinic here and kill babies while they're doing it.
Here's the thought. How do we find out who the landlord is of the place that they're going into or they're trying to go into? Is anybody working on that?
Yeah, we're working on trying to figure that out. And, we will find it out eventually and expose that person who's
I mean, how would you like to own that building? Number one, number two, how would you like to be the workmen and the vendors who are going in to remodel that space, not knowing what you're up to?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they've told them a story of some sort. It's going to be a doctor's office or something. But if you're a tradesman, electrician, plumber, what have you, and you're in there working, all of a sudden you figure it out. I mean, I would just walk out the door, get in my truck, and drive off. I don't need the business that bad to be an accomplice to that kind of thing.
Yes, sir, and you hit that exactly right. Across this country, businessmen find out from time to time that they're not working on a doctor's office, but they're working on an abortion clinic, and they walk off the job. And we expect that will definitely happen here in Lubbock whenever we find out what this place is. And, really the way we always find out is some tradesman catches wind of the rumor that they're not working on a doctor's office, they're working on a killing center.
Did the $9 million just suddenly was that targeting Lubbock or West Texas, or what do you know about that? I mean, that's a huge amount of money.
It is. It was targeting West Texas, and they announced it last year that they had $9 million anonymous donation to open 2 West Texas abortion clinics. They did the first one already in El Paso, and now we found out the second one is here in our town of Lubbock.
Not good news. All right, thanks, Jim Baxa. We'll see what happens this evening at the rally. So much to talk about in the coming couple days. So the Right to Life rally is at 4:00 at Citizens Tower, as Jim said. The city council meeting is at 4:30, and public comments start at 5:00. So depending on what you're doing this afternoon, you might want to go on down to Citizens Tower and support the Right to Life, and let Planned Parenthood know that they're not welcomed here. And maybe through some miracle, the local media will cover that rally and interview some of the people who are participating and get their visions and opinions about why Planned Parenthood isn't welcome back here. But could it be that the reporters and the news directors at the different broadcast stations and the newspaper don't really care about what people's opinions are as far as the Right to Life issues and Planned Parenthood coming back here? Maybe they've already made that determination ahead of time. We'll see. I think it's a good idea to cover both sides of the issue. I really do. Get the Planned Parenthood side and get the Lubbock citizen side of what it means to have an abortion clinic come back to town.